Alright, this is Nick Zellman doing a book review of Touching the Void by Joe Simpson. And I'm going to start off my review by doing a little quote action that I found from inside that goes over the book pretty well. I hoisted my sack onto my back and crouched to make the first tentative hop of the day. The moment I jumped, I knew I would fall. My arm buckled and I pitched forward. When I tried to stand for another try, I couldn't raise myself on the axe. Once again, I hugged the boulder and clawed myself upright. 15 minutes later, I was still within sight of where I had slept. I swayed unsteadily as I looked back at my progress. At every hop I fell, but it was the attempt at standing that demoralized me. The first fall had been painful, and I lay face down in the gravel, clenching my teeth, waiting for the pain to subside. It remained with me, burning my knee unbearably as it had never done before. So at this moment, the main character, Joe, who just happens to be the author of this book, he is alone on top of a remote mountain in Peru. He just got done finishing climbing with his partner. We'll get more into that later in the review. And just as it sounded, he was in so much pain. He kept falling but getting back up, and I mean that's just pretty much how the whole book goes. Just Joe's whole battle trying to get back to his camp. So, like I said, he was in the middle of a remote mountain in Peru. So the mountain had never been climbed before. Him and his partner, Joe and Simon, were the first to ever climb it. This was back in the 80s. And on this mountain, it was very cold, desolate, like no one was near him. So, I mean, in the book, it said multiple times that if something went wrong, no one could come rescue him because they were just so far out that there was no hope of anyone coming nearby. And the main character, like I said, is Simon. He was a main character, but the narrator most of the time is Joe because it kind of switches back between Joe and Simon. But most of the time it is Joe, the main character, and the other hiker. And then another character that is not as important is Richard, and he shows up in the very beginning and end of the book. He's just a photographer that came with Joe and Simon up to the top of the mountain. Or not to the top of the mountain, to their base camp, because at that point it was kind of unsafe for an untrained hiker to go up further, so they kind of left him. Anyways, the plot. Joe and Simon were hiking up the mountain. They got to the top of the mountain. Weather conditions got very bad. Just the visibility turned very bad. Snow was insane. Got way, way cold. And just to make things worse, Joe falls off a 20-foot cliff and breaks his leg. And immediately both hikers know that this is devastating because if any kind of accident or incident like what just happened, that almost meant certain death because it was almost impossible to get him back down the mountain. But Simon helps him as much as he can. They lower him down. They have a system where Simon is with a rope, and he lowers down Joe, just sliding him down the mountain until he stops. And what happens is he falls off another cliff, and more bad stuff happens. And the plot just follows Joe the rest of the time, and his hardships trying to survive and get back to base camp. So I thought that the theme was cry yourself a river, build a bridge, and get over it. Because that's pretty much what Joe does the entire time. He tells himself, you need to stop, you need to get up, you need to get back, or else you're going to die. And I would recommend this book to anyone who likes hiking, fast reads, because, it wasn't a very big book, and miraculous stories, because, it was pretty phenomenal how, this book was written, especially because it was a true story. I also liked it because it was there was always something unexpected. The next page could have been something completely different than the page you were just reading. So yeah, that's my review of Touching the Void.